Chapter 6 Raven's Flight by Diane Silvey. Earlier that morning, Bertie had dropped off the children at Mrs. Larson's, humming softly to herself as she continued on to the store where she had bought 24 pencils at $2 a pack. She had walked to the corner of Hastings and Abbott and raked around in her knapsack for her faithful old tin cup, then had popped the pencils into it. She was open for business. "Pencils for sale!" Bertie had called out as people passed by. "How much are the pencils?" the girl asked. "It's by donation," Bertie had replied. The girl had put a toonie in the cup and had taken 2 pencils. "Thank you. Have a good day," Bertie had said. Her feet had ached. She had dearly wanted a cup of tea, but hadn't dared to use any of the money. By lunchtime, she had sold 10 more pencils at 50 cents each. She was still $2 short if she wanted to get the special pop-up book for Anna. Now Bertie unscrewed the lid of her water jar and took a long drink. She could have sworn the jar still tasted of blackberries. "Hello, Bertie." "Oh, hello, Stella. I haven't seen you around here for ages. How have you been keeping?" Stella was once a large woman, but since she had contracted AIDS, she had wasted away to a mere skeleton. "I've had good days and bad days, but the nights are the hardest to get through," Stella replied. "Have you been eating regular?" Bertie asked, concerned. "When I can get out and about, I get a small bowl of soup. I can usually keep it down," Stella said. "Have you had anything to eat today?" Bertie asked. "No, not today. I've been panhandling all morning trying to get enough money for bus fare. I promised Mum I'd visit her this week." Bertie reached into her cup and pulled out a toonie and a loonie. She gently placed them in Stella's shaking hand. "Take this. It's enough for your fare." "Thanks, Bertie," Stella said hoarsely. Bertie sold 4 more pencils in less than half an hour. She counted her money, but she was still short $1. Another hour passed without any takers. "Pencils for sale!" Bertie cried out, startling a man walking by. He reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 quarters and threw them at Bertie's feet. Bertie didn't even look down. "Pencils for sale!" she called. "Well, aren't you even going to pick them up, old woman?" the man ridiculed. Bertie turned slowly toward him and looked him straight in the face. "Sir, I sell pencils. I am not a beggar," Bertie replied with dignity. The man turned red in the face. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I don't know what came over me. I've had a really bad day," he said. "That's all right. Everyone does. Lord knows I have. Here, have a free pencil," Bertie offered. "Thanks. But I'd rather buy what you have left." "How much are they?" he asked. "It's by donation," replied Bertie. The man gave her 2 toonies and took the remaining pencils. "Have a good day, sir. And thanks." She had more than enough money for Anna's present and just enough time to get to the bookshop before it closed. Bertie took the money out of her cup and stuffed it into her pocket as she hurried down the street. Anna would be so happy when she opened her gift, Bertie thought. Every time they had walked by the store, Anna had pressed her small face to the window to get a glimpse of the poetry book by Robert Louis Stevenson with colorful pop-up pictures. Anna had memorized 2 lines from the poems in the book. She knew if she repeated them often enough, one day they would come true. "I just have to shut my eyes, to go sailing through the skies, to go sailing far away." Bertie realized she was walking too fast. Her breathing had become labored, and she felt quite dizzy. She rested her hand on the building next to her for support. A sharp pain ran up and down her left arm. She lurched unsteadily toward a park bench and slumped down, exhausted. Her hands shook as she fumbled with the zipper of her knapsack, trying to get to her pills. The pain became more intense. Trying not to panic, she pressed down firmly and turned the lid. She put a pill under her tongue that burned as it dissolved, but the headache that always accompanied the pain grew even more severe. Worried she wouldn't get to the store in this condition, she popped another pill under her tongue. She got up and took a few unsteady steps towards down the block. The store light was still on, but when she turned the doorknob, it was locked. The sign in the window read, "Closed. Please call again." A tear slipped unchecked down her cheek. "Bertie, Bertie, is that you?" asked Mr. Wilson. The bell over the doorway jingled merrily. "Mr. Wilson, thank goodness you're still here. I thought I had missed you." "Now, it wouldn't be much of a birthday without a present, would it?" he laughed. "No, indeed. Thank you for waiting," Bertie said. Mr. Wilson took the wrapped package off the shelf and handed it to Bertie. She started counting out the money on the counter. "No need for that, Bertie. I know you well enough to know it's all there. Are you feeling all right?" "I had a bit of a spell a while ago, but I'm all right now," Bertie replied. "Just wait a second. Just wait till I get my coat, and I'll drive you home." Why don't you join us? There will be plenty of cake for everyone. The more the merrier, said Bertie. Well, that sounds nice. Tell you what, we'll stop at a restaurant and I'll buy some Chinese food for the party. I can't say no to such a tempting offer. Could you get some of those little fortune cookies as well? When Bertie and Mr. Wilson pulled up in front of the warehouse, Ben and Raven came running out. Bertie, are you all right? We were worried about you, Ben said anxiously. Just had a little spell, but I'm fine now. Did you get everything? Bertie asked. Yes, everything is ready. I'll run over and get the kids and be back in 5 minutes. Raven, will you help Bertie finish the preparations? He asked. Sure. Mr. Wilson has agreed to be our guest tonight, Bertie beamed. After putting the final touches on the room, Bertie, Raven, and Mr. Wilson hid, wanting to surprise the children when they walked in. Happy birthday, Anna! Happy birthday, Robert! They sang in chorus when the children entered a few minutes later. To accommodate the festivities, 2 packing crates were joined end to end to form a longer table. Mr. Wilson had placed both large bags of Chinese food on the crates. Will you do the honors, Mr. Wilson? Bertie asked. Why, I'd be delighted. Vegetable fried rice, mushroom egg foo young, sweet and spicy chicken, lettuce wrapped, Singapore chow mein, honey garlic pork, and last but not least, prawn crackers, he said as he pulled out the container after container. Are there chopsticks? Robert and Anna asked with excitement. Yes, and fortune cookies too, he answered. The children had gone to a Chinese restaurant only once on Bertie's birthday. The chopsticks had been the highlight of the evening. Don't forget the hats, Ben, Bertie reminded him. He passed one to Mr. Wilson. He looked a little flustered, but was a good sport and put it on. Look, I can use chopsticks, Robert said excitedly. He picked up a piece of honey garlic pork. Almost instantly, the chopsticks slipped sideways. The piece of pork flew in an arc, only to land with a splash in Bertie's teacup. Oh, my, Bertie laughed. Raven giggled. Ben and the children laughed so hard tears streamed down their faces. Mr. Wilson grinned and winked at Bertie. After everyone had had their fill, Bertie announced, It's time for cake. It's my turn to blow out the candles, Anna piped up. It is not. It's my turn. You did it last time, Robert whined. Now, children, you can both blow them out at the same time, Bertie reminded them gently. Anna gasped as the lone sparkler in the middle of the cake shot out a stream of white stars. All right, now, on the count of 3, you both blow out the candles. 1, 2, 3, counted Ben. Bertie cut a generous slice of cake for everyone. They ate with gusto. The children, for once, felt really full. Well, it must be time for the presents, Bertie announced. Presents? We're going to get presents, too, the children chimed. Ben and Raven cleared the table. Can we keep up the bird and flower decorations for ever and ever, Bertie? The children begged. Bertie nodded and placed a present in front of Anna, and Ben did likewise for Robert. Robert ripped his open and hooted with delight. A harmonica! It's just what I wanted! Thank you! Aren't you going to open yours, Anna? Bertie asked. I don't need a present, Bertie. You could have spent the money on new shoes instead, she protested. Don't worry about that, sweetheart. I can put new cardboard in the soles when need be. Today is your special day, not mine. Now make my old heart happy and open the present, Bertie said kindly. Anna undid the bow carefully. The bright red ribbon would be added to her special collection. The pop-up book! Oh, Bertie, thank you! Thank you! Now every night after supper I can read it to you. I'll look forward to that. It's a good thing I taught you to read before my glasses broke. Can you play us a tune on your harmonica, Robert? Raven asked. Sure, if Bertie will accompany me, he replied. I'm a bit winded. You go ahead, Bertie suggested. After the festivities died down, Bertie asked Mr. Wilson for a private word. They talked secretly, deep in serious conversation, for almost half an hour. Finally, he put his coat and hat on, ready to leave. Good night, Bertie, he said as he tipped his hat to her. Don't you worry none. They'll be fine. You have my word, promised Mr. Wilson. Bertie retreated to a chair for a nap while Raven and Ben cleaned up. As they gathered up the dirty dishes and wrapping, they got to talking. Ben, how did you end up in the streets anyways? I was born here. Born here? Yeah, my grandma and grandpa had a big house near the corner of Georgia and Jackson. That was when I was a baby. Grandpa worked at the railway yard. Why would anyone live in the downtown east side if they had a job? In those days, it was a nice place to live. Everybody knew everybody else, and there wasn't crime. There wasn't the crime there is now. So what happened? Grandpa was a switchman. One day when he was hurrying across the tracks in front of a train, he lost his footing and tripped. He lost both legs in the accident, and after that, he went downhill. He died a few months later, only in his 50s. When my grandma was alive, there was an odd wino or down and outer. But shortly after he died, or when my grandfather was alive, there was an odd wino or down and outer. But shortly after he died, drug dealers started moving in and taking over the old neighborhood. At least that's the way I remember it. The two events are forever connected in my mind. What about your grandma? Once she was without her husband, she seemed to change for the worse. To top everything off, Mum, where is your mother? She's in a home. What kind of home? A home for the mentally ill. I go and visit her every now and then, but she doesn't know me. Her memory is ruined from the cocaine. She'll be 36 on her next birthday. Will your mum ever get out of the hospital? No. Her mind is destroyed. She can't even look after herself, Ben explained. Was she always a drug addict? No. I remember when I was about 7 or 8, she didn't drink or do drugs, but a year later everything changed. Her boyfriend at the time beat her up, and I walked in on it one night. He grabbed her arm, spun her around, and gave her a hard smack across the mouth. I saw red. I ran over and started pounding him with my fists and kicking him. He slapped me, then he caught her by the hair and threw her down the stairs. He grabbed me by the arm and pushed both of us out of the front door and slammed it shut behind us. Where'd you go? We didn't know where to go or what to do. We had been living in his house. It was the dead of winter and bitter cold. Mom hammered on the door, begging for our coats. He flung open the door and threw them at us. I didn't know what I could say to comfort her. I wanted to say something to protect her, but I was too young. She decided we should try her friend Cheryl, a cocktail waitress who lived in a run-down tenement building. Mom slept on the couch, and Cheryl made me a bed out of two old chairs. When I woke up, I wasn't sure where we were. When we went back to Mom's boyfriend's to get our clothes, we found them strewn on the front stairs and in the yard. A bottle of Mom's cheap perfume had broken. Our clothes were doused in a sickeningly flowery smell. We wandered around, freeloading, and eventually she got a new boyfriend with a new habit, and I was on my own. The rest is history. Anyway, enough of the sob story. I have to go over to Mrs. Larson's and help her get ready for bed. She can't manage by herself anymore. You wait here. I won't be long. Then I'll walk you home. I'll get a thermos of tea for Bertie while I'm over there. Bertie, having heard her name, woke up out of the slumber she had retreated to after Mr. Wilson left. What's that? Did you call me, Ben? Bertie asked. No, Bertie. I was just telling Raven I was going to get your thermos filled. Oh, I could go for a spot of hot tea right now. See you in a few minutes, he shouted over his shoulder. Sorry, I dozed off. What were you talking about? I asked Ben about his mother. What did he tell you? He told me about getting kicked out of her boyfriend's house, but it was a bit sketchy after that. He's been through a lot in his short life. How did she end up in a mental institution? It's a tough story to tell. Darlene was a little more than a kid herself. She found jobs, but she couldn't seem to hold on to any. She had no training or skills. What happened? Cheryl hooked up Darlene with a guy she knew. Darlene was innocent. She'd been protected by her father while he was alive. The guy was only too happy to take Darlene on. He bought her new clothes, rented them a room, and even gave her money for groceries. It was too good to be true. Everything seemed to be going well for a while. She made lots of money, though she wasn't allowed to keep much of it. She did manage to buy Ben a TV and a stereo to keep him company while she was out. It bothered her that he was alone for so long while she was working, Bertie said. You mean he was left all alone in the apartment? For hours at a time. To make matters worse, her drug habit escalated. Ben came home from school one day and discovered his TV was missing. Darlene had pawned it until her luck changed. He never saw the TV again. A few weeks later, the stereo disappeared. He didn't even bother to ask where it was. By this time, things were in a sorry state of affairs. Ben was reduced to trolling through the dumpsters to find food. That's why he has ordered Robert and Anna to stay out of trash bins. Darlene loved Ben, but she was at the mercy of the drugs. Everything was beyond her control. her son included. At first, she'd come home every night. Then it got so bad she couldn't even remember where she lived from one day to the next. Ben started taking to the streets in search of her. Did he find her? One night he found her face down on the street, passed out cold. Ben put his tiny arm around her and laid down beside her. In the morning, the police found them there, sound asleep. The police arrested her, and welfare took Ben away. Bertie sighed. Did she ever get Ben back? Raven asked. It took quite a while. She went cold turkey, but they wouldn't let her have him unless she could prove she was a fit parent. She held down a job for a while and regained custody, but it didn't last. No matter how hard she tried to quit the drugs, she couldn't stop. It didn't take long for her to hit the streets again. She started locking him in the room at night so he wouldn't wander the streets looking for her. But what if there was a fire? What if he was sick? Raven asked. She wasn't thinking rationally. She couldn't imagine anything beyond the next fix. By then, she was pretty much a 24/7 girl. What do you mean, 24/7 girl? It's a term for the girls who work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They've got the habit so bad they seldom sleep. Some can go for as long as 4 days before they literally collapse. Their life, if you can call it that, is one miserable cycle. They think of nothing more than scoring and fixing. Their bosses wouldn't want it any other way. What happened to Ben? The neighbors got suspicious and called the police. The cops found the room locked and broke in. There was nothing in the room except a dirty old mattress and a threadbare blanket, a rotten plate of food, a half-empty water bottle, and a chamber pot that was overflowing. The stench was so offensive it made one of the officers gag. It was enough to convince the social workers to take Ben away permanently. At first they couldn't find Arlene to notify her, but they soon discovered that she had been admitted to the hospital for an overdose. She's been in a mental institution ever since. How did Ben come to live with you? Raven inquired. Well, he wouldn't stay in any foster home. He kept running away. I met him on the streets and we became friends. When he ran away, he came here to visit me. I was scared that one day he would run away for good and that would be the end of it. So I invited him to live with me. When you're born on the skids, I guess it feels like home, Bertie offered. You've been looking after him ever since? I guess you could say that, but it's mutual. It was the same with Robert and Anna. I look after them, they look after me. We're a family.